Look, in the woods, it's a wolf, it's a fox. No, it's the maned wolf and his mild-mannered alter ego, Phil. Keeping taxonomy researchers and podcast hosts on their toes is the name of the game, sweetheart. Is this glamazon from the Amazon, this red bluster with a duster, defies categorization on a molecular level. But life has shown us time and time again that you just gotta be weird in order to survive here in life, death, and taxonomy.
Welcome back to Life, Death, and Taxonomy. It's your 30 minutes of interesting animal information. I'm Joe.
And I'm Carlos.
Thank you to Cassie for the creation of our theme song. To hear more of Cassie's music, please search Cassie Michelle on YouTube or Spotify.
And thank you to Johanna for the creation of this week's artwork. To check that out, you can follow us on Facebook or Twitter at LD Taxonomy, or visit us at our home on the web at ldtaxonomy.com. And a very special thank you to our patrons, to Tristan Taylor, Jesse Raspolich, Carol Raspolich, and Richard Kaspar. Thank you so much for your support. It's greatly appreciated. Thanks for helping us keep the lights on.
And today we're talking about my maned man, but more on that later.
Oh, well, I'm crossing one of my nicknames off the list.
Also, happy plus-sized Tuesday.
What?
It's Mardi Gras. It's Fat Tuesday. I know that because Google told me this. So
it's Fat Tuesday. I've never heard of Fat Tuesday. I've heard of Ruby Tuesday.
You don't?
I've heard of Bondi Tuesday, or whichever one Solomon Grundy was born on. I've never heard of Fat Tuesday. That's weird.
I don't know what Fat Tuesday is,
Like,
but I know
a lot
it's
of like
associated with Mardi Gras.
Cajun food. You eat a lot of po' boys.
Mardi Gras is French for Fat Tuesday.
Oh, you know what? I'm my one semester of French from college is kicking in, and that checks out, and I can't believe I never thought about it. Wow.
Reflecting the practice of the last night of eating rich, fatty foods before the ritual Lent.
Oh,
Gotcha.
It's a Catholic thing. Got it. Okay, well, so today is Mardi Gras?
Mm-hmm. Well, for the listener, it was last week.
Oh, that's true. I'm getting a lot of like YouTube commercials about like go to Universal and have fun at the Mardi Gras. It's like enjoy beads. That was one of their selling points, is beads.
That's really funny. I'd never really put the two things together, which is like Mardi Gras seems like a lecherous event, but it's a preparation for Lent. It's a preparation for a very pious event.
So let's get all your sinning out now, because we're about to go into Holy Town.
Okay.
I mean, that seems to be what the situation is. Like, eat all your fatty foods and drink all your drinks now, because we're going to spend the rest of the month not doing that.
Eating fatty foods is not inherently...
Yes, it's a sin.
Although, like, a gluttonous activity might be considered a sin. Like,
no
intentionally gluttonous and excessive might be considered a sin in some circles. One of the 7 deadly sins. Is it because it's deadly because of cardiovascular disease?
That's true. It's the most deadly sin in America. All right. What are we talking about?
We're talking about the maned wolf. It has nothing to do with Mardi Gras, unfortunately.
It really doesn't.
Unfortunately for who, I don't know, but just us.
Unless you're at a Mardi Gras celebration and you have a mane of beads on your neck.
Yeah.
There you go. Yeah, the maned wolf. It's also called the skunk wolf for reasons I'm sure we'll talk about later. But we're gonna also call it the fake and fantastic Mr. Fox, the furry, fruity friend, and the red wolf of Ratigan. Because look at this guy. I'm sure that the people in Elden Ring were like, all right, we're turning that into a boss. Put a sword in that dog's mouth. And turn it into a boss that shoots magic.
Yeah.
I wanted to mention that this was a suggestion sent in by Chanel. So thank you so much for this suggestion. We love fielding these ideas because we scour the internet for interesting animals, and there's no shortage of them, but it's always nice to hear what you want to hear about.
Yeah, we the maned wolf was on our list for a while, and then even Chanel was like, I don't know if there's going to be a really big major fact, but it looks so interesting. So there might be something interesting about it. And there's a couple things that are quite interesting about it. So
yeah, it's just kind of like a hodgepodge major fact. Yeah. Good call.
Yeah. Well, would you like to know what science has to call it?
Yep, I would. This time.
It's in the kingdom you know, love, and are in the kingdom Animalia. It's in the phylum Chordata. It's in the class Mammalia. It's in the order Carnivora. It's in the family Canidae. So far, so good.
Yeah, I got all these without even having to look it up. I was like, got it. Canidae. Knew it.
Subfamily Caninae, still going pretty strong.
Yeah,
Tribe Canini.
Canini. It's delicious.
Canini.
Eat your caninis before Mardi Gras.
The genus is Chrysacian. Chrysacian? Chrysocion?
Yeah, Chrysocion. It means golden dog.
You better hope we don't need to do... we don't lose the episode.
It's like the 10th word in the Wikipedia article, so I'm sure you saw it.
I didn't. And then the binomial name is Chrysocian brachioris. Brachioris. And so Chrysocian, that's something we've never heard of before. That's not a genus I'm familiar with. I'll talk about that later.
Yeah, there's a reason for that. But since we're in the business of naming things, it's time for my favorite part of the show, critter groups. We're back after 3 weeks, I think, of nitty gritty nomenclature. We're back to critter groups. Yeah. But not entirely. I mean, it is critter groups, but the maned wolf is a solitary dude. He's a lone... Not really a wolf. He's a lone thing. And so we're going to talk about foxes because it looks like fox. So this is a part of the show where I ask you, Joe, a question, and that question is the same every time. What is the name of a group of this animal, or what is the term of entry, or what is the collective noun? If you saw a group of foxes, you would not see a group of maned wolves. At best, you would probably see 2 or 3, and they would all be a nuclear family. But if you saw a group of foxes, would you call it A, a den of foxes, B, a cuddle of foxes, C, a yawn of foxes, or D, a leash of foxes?
I'm going to go with a den of foxes because foxes have dens, but the son of man has nowhere to lay his head.
I knew I'd get you with that one.
Dang it.
The answer is leash.
Oh, well, that wasn't even on my radar. I was thinking, a den of foxes is in the cultural lexicon in Western culture because of the biblical reference. A torch of foxes, that would have been fun.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I was absolutely exploiting your biblical knowledge for my own gain. But yes, it's a leash of foxes, which does not apply to the maned wolf because it's not a fox.
Well, I'm glad we did that for no reason.
Yep. that was pointless fun. Let's move on.
So I was talking about Mardi Gras, so I can't complain. Would you like to know a description of this thing? We've talked about being a fox and not being a fox, not being a wolf.
Yep.
What could this thing look like? Why would we even say that? Okay. They're lanky canines with proportionally long limbs and large ears. They're colored similarly to a red fox with brown ears and a light reddish or golden color on their back. Their signature manes are also dark brown, like Scar.
Yeah. I actually put that in my notes. It looks like he's about to kill his brother and take control of Pride Walk.
Their tails are blonde.
That's what I would call if I had like a Thai cuisine place. I would call it a Pride Walk.
Pride Walk. That's pretty good. That might actually be a place already.
Yeah, for different reasons.
So they look like a wolf or a dog of some kind, but it has larger ears like a fox. The coloration of a red fox, but it also has really long limbs proportionally. So, some pictures, it's uncanny. It's so long.
I agree. It's like a greyhound.
Almost like a deer. You might think it looks like a deer if you see it from a distance. But that brings me to its size and dimensions. Would you like to hear its size and dimensions in relatable terms?
If you have any relatable terms, kind of just lying.
Oh, I have the most relatable term. Welcome to the Beloved Measure of segment, the official listener's favorite part of the show, the part of the show when we present the animal size and dimensions in relatable terms through a quiz that's fun for the whole family. It's also part of the show that's introduced by you when you send an audio of yourself saying, singing, or chittering the words measure up into ldtaxonomy@gmail.com. We don't have a new measure up intro this week. So that means we're going to go into the archives and find some of our greatest hits. Nora, when we talked about how, like, I think we talked about like melanoma and black people and white people, and like how their susceptibility to it. And in a house episode that taught us that melanoma can like often occurs in black people on like the palms of their hands and their feet and stuff. And she said they can, in fact, get skin cancer. I think we said that they could. I don't think we said that they couldn't.
I think you said it was less common.
It 100% is less common. But she's pointing out the fact that there's a kind of a dangerous myth that black people are immune to skin cancer because it is less common. So they don't. And like you said, like you have to put on sunscreen because you're getting the radiation. You might not notice, and it might not be as noticeable because you're not turning red, like a ginger family at the beach. So it's important. She says it's an important thing for dark-skinned people and their medical caregivers to be aware of, actually.
Yeah, it's like with sunglasses. If you are like if you go outside and you don't wear sunglasses, then your pupils constrict and it doesn't let a lot of that harmful light into your eyes. But if you wear bad sunglasses that just darken but don't actually block out the UV, then your pupils expand, letting a bunch of that bad light in. So you don't want to ever wear bad sunglasses. If you wear sunglasses, you want to wear good ones so that when your pupils expand, you don't get that UV in there. So the pain you feel when you go outside and squint is good because it means that you're not like you know that something is not good about what your eyes are taking in. It's just harsh sunlight. So sometimes it's good to have that little warning. And as a dark-skinned person, I don't get that warning, and so I almost never wear sunscreen. So this is not a good strategy.
And as a void of white person, I like wear like I'm at the point where like my younger self, I was like, maybe I'll try to tan. I'm so white. I got to tan. I got to try to tan. But I don't. I just burn, get some freckles, get a new mole, and increase my skin cancer risk. So no more. SPF 1 million in a shirt. And a hat, a wide-brimmed hat.
You're just going to be like that, what's the name of that mutant in Logan that's all wrapped up?
Oh, yeah.
Whatever his name is. It's dressed like he's in the Antarctic, but it's Mexico.
Mm-hmm.
Because the sun hurts. It's bad. It's good and bad.
Mm-hmm. Since we heard from Nora, let's hear from Nora again. Without further ado, the listener's favorite part of the show. It's melodic.
It's vibratic.
It's vibratic. It's almost a year old. It's May 25th, 2022. We're getting close to a year old for that measure up.
It reminds me of that. There's always I don't know how many mid-century musicals you've watched, but there's usually that like part where the girl sings about like the love interest, and it's very like there's a lot of vibrato and lots of long drawn out notes. The part where like 10-year-old me just left the room or fell asleep, that because it's like, oh, what a lovely man and all this stuff from Chitty Chitty Bang Bang. Like go back to the flying car, the pirates. But that's what it reminds me of. And my mom was just in town recently, and whenever she comes over, we always watch one of those for old time's sake. And man, those are long movies. We watched My Fair Lady this last time.
I don't think I've ever seen that.
It's got one of those songs. It's got songs in it. This one's got songs.
I'm trying to remember them, but they're they're hard to remember from music because they're not very catchy and they're not like very standout-ish.
Though, oh, what a lovely lonely man from Chitty Chitty Bang Bang is probably the archetype for that. And the what is it? The Song of the South not Song of the South. Goodness gracious me. South Pacific has that.
Wow.
Song of the South Pacific.
The
King and
Toppins. Is that kind of like that vein? From Harry Potter. We can't say anything right. Mary Poppins.
Oh man, but it's British and it's London and it's it's airy. Something starts with a P. I get it.
Okay, let's talk about height before we talk about more like contentious franchises.
Before we start calling Mary Poppins Harry Potter anymore. They're 90 centimeters or 35 inches at the shoulder, making it really, really tall for a canine. It's only a little longer than it is tall. It's like 39 inches. It's a perfect square of a wolf thing.
So how many maned wolves go into the diameter of the nebula that is being expelled by Wolf Rayet 124? Just marinate in it.
That's being expelled by Wolf? What?
Here's a hint. A Wolf Rayet is a type of star that is very hot and expels vast amounts of ionized helium. Among other elements, surrounding itself with a large nebula. The stars are defined by a depletion of hydrogen, strong stellar winds, and unusual spectra. And I only know some of those words.
I know some of those words. So what's the metric again? The length of these nebula?
You're looking for the diameter of the nebula that's being expelled by this star.
So I'm imagining like a nebula is just a big bunch of hot gases, right? Like a big cloud, a miasma.
Well, it's ionized helium, among other elements.
Shiny gas. It's probably big. We'll say 10 million miles. Morales. 10 million miles Morales. Man, I don't even. I should have just guessed the number of wolves. Like that's basically as much as. Okay. How many wolves? Fine, whatever. 18 trillion. I think that's trillion. 1, 2 billion. Yes, 18 trillion. Done.
Final
Easy.
answer?
Easy. Yep.
The correct answer is 63 quadrillion.
So close.
You couldn't be farther. You couldn't be farther. You could have said 0.
I certainly could be further. I could be infinitely further.
The nebula is 6 light years across. You guessed a sub-light year distance.
Yeah, I was kind of picturing like a small dwarf star or something like that. Maybe like the size of Jupiter, and then kind of like a ring sort of situation, or like a.
Honestly,
kind of
yeah, I would have said
expelling
the
out.
same thing. It's mind-boggling to think of singular objects in space that you can't get from one to the other at the speed of light in less than 6 years.
Or from one side of it to the other. This is bigger than the
Yeah.
solar system.
Yeah.
Many times bigger than the solar system. And it's one star and it's nebula.
Look at the picture. Look up a picture of Wolf Rayet 124. It looks like a Star Wars explosion. It just looks like an explosion in space.
124?
Mm-hmm.
Gosh, there's a
Or
lot of these.
WR 124.
Ooh.
It looks very cool.
This is the thing I would have called the eye in Andor. Looks like an eye.
It looks like the it
Elden
looks like
Ring
the
Outer
frenzied
God.
flame.
Yeah, it looks
I was
like
gonna say the frenzied flame.
Sure does. Wow. That's very cool though. And that's very big.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So let's talk weight. They're 23 kilograms or 51 pounds. How many maned wolves go into the weight of Mambele, also called a hungamunga?
You got to start speaking English. I don't believe anything you've just
no idea what I'm talking about yet.
said. I heard Mabele and Hungabunga.
Those are both true. But Mambele is very hungabunga. Like hungamunga. So here's a hint. The Mambele is a hybrid between a knife and an axe that was wielded by the Mangbutu and other tribes in Central and South Africa. Central and Southern Africa.
I mean, why are we talking about this?
Medieval weapons.
Oh, it has nothing to do with the maned wolf. It's just,
No.
we're still talking about medieval weapons. So some sort of axe hatchet thing.
Yeah, remember, it's kind of like there's many forms of this thing that this thing can take. But speaking of Elden Ring, the knives that those like invisible
Black Knife Assassins.
the knives are the Black Knives Assassins. That's kind of a Mambele.
Interesting. That's 3 Elden Ring references before we even get to the major fact.
Before bedtime.
Before bedtime, yeah.
It's basically like a knife that has knife blades in multiple directions, so that you can throw it in pretty much wherever, unless the handle hits them, they're gonna get a gash.
25. Is the answer my answer?
Membele?
Go into
Well,
the
I
weight
forgot
of
to-
this wolf.
Let me. I don't need to crunch the numbers. It's really easy. Final answer.
No, is it really easy? Maybe it's just 1 pound. Nope, I'm sticking with it. 2 pounds. 25.
The correct answer is technically 51.
It's less than a pound.
It's a pound.
Or is it
51
pound?
pounds. 51 Membele, but there are plenty of Membele that are probably 2 pounds. There's I think it's called like a African scythe knife or something like that.
That sounds fun.
It's a curved blade. It's essentially a sword that looks sort of like a scythe. It's very Elden Ringy, and it's longer, and I'm sure it can be 2 pounds. So I'm gonna give you the V on that one.
The Churchill V, I'll take it.
Mm-hmm. And I'm not flipping it around just to make a rude gesture in England. Would you like to hear some fast facts before we get into the major fact?
Yeah. You know what? Yes.
Okay. The wolf lives in Argentina, Brazil, Bolivia, Peru, and Paraguay. They are rare in Uruguay. Uruguay? Is that how you say that?
Uruguay.
Is it Uruguay?
It's Uruguay.
Man, that's insensitive.
Paraguay and Uruguay. That is
But
isn't it?
I'm sure it is a lovely country that it has nothing to do with
Uruguay.
evil monsters from the Lord of the Rings. So it's almost extinct. It might be extinct in Uruguay. It enjoys open country, especially the beautiful tropical savanna of the Brazilian Cerrado. Do you know anything about the Cerrado?
Is it a South American savanna?
Yeah.
I do know.
It's
one thing about it.
So, side note, the Cerrado is a unique environment because it is a vast plains region in the tropics, which doesn't happen that often. It has a ton of biodiversity because of this, and it's been called the forgotten area of conservation or the ugly duckling of conservation because it competes with tropical rainforests and stuff. But pictures show a countryside straight out of the Altus Plateau. It looks like a tropical version of the American West. I think it
Sounds
looks beautiful.
gorgeous.
And everyone can just stop. It's beautiful. You stop calling it the ugly duckling.
It's Norman Rockwell at its finest.
So the Maine wolves have long limbs to help them in their preferred territory, which often includes grasslands and tall reeds. Maine wolves, you call them skunk wolves or something?
The skunk wolf, yes.
Skunk wolf. That's because Maine wolves smell a lot like marijuana.
It's because they've been token. They've been joking. They've been smoking.
J.R.R. token.
They've been late night. J.R.R. token.
They are monogamous and they need the powerful scent to the urine to communicate their location to their mates. So they smell like cannabis because of a strong scent in their urine, and they use it to communicate with their spouses. They meet up. They meet up each spring to make more maned babies, and the smell is so much like cannabis that police officers have been called to investigate illegal drugs that turned out to be a lanky wolf wee.
Yeah, that was in 2006, back when, the police would go, would actually
Would
respond.
investigate.
Yeah, someone's like, "Hey, I think someone's smoking weed in the zoo," and then the police are like, "We're on it."
Nowadays, they're like,
"So are we."
stop wasting police resources. Other than the reefer rendezvous, they are solitary animals, unlike other canines. Their manes are thought to be used to scare off predators and rivals. When this jackal raises its hackles, it looks a lot larger,
Yeah,
making
I like it.
making it not only the one of the tallest canines, it'll look like a thick canine.
On Fat Tuesday.
They have 3 vocalizations, including a high-pitched whine, a low growl, and a roar bark, which is used to communicate over long distances and sounds like just like when a dog screams. Have you ever taken a roar bark test?
I was thinking, whenever I read roar bark, I thought of Rourke from Atlantis. It's just mash those 2 words together. Well, when I heard it, it sounded like a bark that just didn't have a distinct beginning.
Let's hear a roar bark. So it's just a really loud bark.
But it doesn't sound like an explosion of bark. It's just like a roar. It does sound like a roar.
Yeah.
But it has the definition of a bark. I love those hey, listen to this animal make this sound, but also first listen to 30 seconds of nothing. I should have probably started this video 30 seconds into it.
Here's a better one. Yeah, I can see that being a roar.
It sounds like it's hacking up.
Yeah. Have you ever seen those videos when a dog eats a bee and then they throw up?
No. Can't wait to watch a video where a dog eats a bee and then throws up.
Well, they dry heave and it's like.
I don't need to watch a YouTube video to listen to a dog dry heave.
They have weird seasonal sleep schedules. They may be diurnal during the dry season and then nocturnal during the wet season. But this sleep schedule isn't set. It can vary based on region. So if you have one in, I forgot. If you have one in Peru, it'll be asleep during the day in the dry season, but over in Bolivia, it's awake during the dry season. So it's like
awake during the day in the dry season.
Yeah, whatever I said, the right way to say it.
The opposite.
Just imagine the right way. But yeah, it's very interesting. We don't know why they have weird sleep schedules like that. But that's all I got.
All right. Time for the major fact, which I'm calling taxonomic trouble. Those scamps over at the taxonomy firm. Well, I don't know. It's just imagine a big building where they all get together and they're like, yeah, carnivora. I know all of these things are carnivores, but really only the mammals can be carnivores, right? Yeah. But no, yeah, this guy defies taxonomization. If that's a word. It just looks like a big fox crossed with like a hyena and a deer and a horse or something. It just looks like this chimera. The reality is that Robin Hood here isn't a fox or a wolf, as we mentioned, or even a relative of the hyena with that scruffy mane. It's in the subfamily Caninae, so it is related to dogs, wolves, and foxes. But it is actually in a tribe of dog and fox lookalikes. Also, I probably mentioned this in the hyena episode, but hyenas are in feliformes, so they're cat lookalikes, which I don't agree with. I think they all look like dogs, like not like dogs, but they're in the form of dogs.
A nice manure. Yeah, I agree.
So the dog lookalikes in the subfamily Caninae include wild dogs, pseudo wolves, and zorros, which are fake foxes. They're called in Spanish zorros. So next time you watch Antonio Banderas do his thing on screen, you're just like, that's a fake fox right there. That's a fox paws. That's a faux pas. But most of its relatives, most of the maned wolf's relatives, live in South America as well. So there really aren't a lot of close relatives within this subfamily outside of South America. So they're actually the tallest wild canid in the world. You mentioned that they're 35 inches at the shoulders, which is the absolute and that's their average, but that's the absolute top of even the biggest dog. They're taller than wolves. I mean, those are all the big ones. I mean, you think of a gray wolf being huge. You think of a Great Dane, or an Irish sheephound, some of these huge canids. And this guy, Maine Wolf's, is a cut above. Its average is their max. But it has much smaller feet, 3 times smaller. So all these dogs have these big meaty paws, and this guy's a little dainty boy. It also doesn't have the same vertical pupils that foxes have. So these are some of the things where taxonomists were like, I don't think this is a fox, boys. I also don't think it's a wolf. What are we going to do? So the real way that they ended up taxonomizing the maned wolf, is through electrophoretic studies of their DNA. So many animals are taxonomized based just on their skeletal structure or their dental pattern or their sexual isolation, meaning that they only mate with members of their own species, which indicates that they are members of the same species and they can't produce fertile offspring with other species. So you can breed a horse and a donkey to get a mule, but mules are infertile, so because they're not the same species, but you can breed a horse with another horse and get a fertile horse. But that's that was those kinds of the skeletal structure and all that. It wasn't enough for them to say okay, we know exactly where to place the maned wolf in the taxonomy tree. So they had to get down to the DNA to figure this lanky lad out. But there are also some other things that set the maned wolf apart from other canids. Its diet also sets it apart. It does eat the usual things that would be on the menu for a solitary dog: mice, rabbits, lizards, birds. If it got together in pack like wolves, it could take down bigger things, but since it doesn't, it really goes for small mammals, kind of like the Ethiopian wolf, or other coyotes, things like that. But a large portion of its diet is actually made up of plants, which I would not have called for what looks like a wolf. It mainly eats the lobeira. I don't know, lobeira fruit, which is also called the wolf apple. or wolf plant is what that actually translates to literally in Spanish. And it comes from the nightshade family. It's like a tomato-looking thing with an eggplant texture
Parmesan.
on the inside. What?
Nothing. I said Parmesan.
Eggplant parmesan on the inside. Can you imagine if you just picked a fruit and opened it? It was eggplant parmesan on the inside.
That would be wonderful.
That would be wonderful.
Warm eggplant, like a hot, right out of the oven.
It's like, oh man, I just picked this tomato. I opened it up. It's shrimp scampi on the inside. It's great.
Ugh, I don't know. That would freak me out a little bit. No
like, how long
seafood from the earth, please.
No seafood that's been incubating, please. But here, so there's actually this interesting symbiotic relationship that the maned wolf has that involves its diet. So it eats this fruit, this wolf apple, which is probably the coolest kind of apple. I can't imagine it tastes all that good, but it is wolf apple.
Is it cooler than a Granny Smith?
Well, then you just need then you just need a little Red Riding Hood apple, and you got all three main characters, I suppose.
That's true.
The big bad wolf apple.
It's a Red Delicious.
Is that Red Delicious, Granny Smith, and the wolf apple? You got the parable? I don't think parable is the right word. Adage? Fable? There we go.
Fable. That's it.
So they'll eat this fruit, and then they will defecate on near leaf cutter ants. Not necessarily on purpose. But there's
I was thinking, like, okay, what does it have against leaf cutter?
It's like, I'm gonna get these boys.
Or is it doing something nice for them?
They pinch my toesies, so I'm gonna drop a steamer on them.
That's fair play. That's fair play.
It's a pseudo dog eats pseudo ant world out there. Not pseudo ants, real ant. So the ants will then take their new present, and they'll bring it into their colonies or their nests, and they'll use it to fertilize their fungus gardens. Because if you remember back in our leafcutter ant episode, probably 1 million years ago when we recorded that, but they're farmers. They actually cultivate a fungal garden in their nests, and they use the excrement from the local fauna to fertilize this garden. And in the territory of the maned wolf, they'll use those droppings. But they don't want the seeds that come from the fruit that make it all the way through the maned wolf's GI tract. So they'll leave the seeds outside of their den. They'll scatter them as they make their way back to their nest, and they'll germinate and grow, and more wolf apple plants will grow around the anthill, and the wolf will eat the new fruit. So it kind of perpetuates this cycle of poop fruit, and it's beautiful.
It's the circle of life right there.
Yeah, they cut that part out of the beginning of The Lion King though, because it was a little blue for the audience they were trying to target, and they went with the whole like everybody likes lions for some reason.
How scatological of them. Or not scatological of them. That's what that is. Scatological humor.
Is it really?
Poo jokes, yeah, scatological humor.
I don't like it. I've never been a fan of poop jokes, yet I'm making them. So, yeah, it is technically symbiotic in a weird roundabout way. And that's about it. That's about it for the maned wolf. It's just like a weird, skinny, graceful, fake wolf fox that eats fruit, poops it on top of ants, and pees weed. Like what else was I gonna say?
He sounds awesome. He sounds awesome.
Sounds like a bro.
Yeah.
Actually. Sounds like my bro. But yeah, that's the maned wolf. You got anything else?
I was trying to, like, Johanna and I have been hot on the trail trying to find this dog, but I got nothing else.
Trying to find this dog?
The dog that ate a bee and makes a funny sound.
Oh, I see. All right, so that was the maned wolf. Thank you, Chanel, for the suggestion. If you would like to suggest an animal for us to cover, you can email it to ldtaxonomy@gmail.com. Or you can tweet it to us. You still love Twitter, right?
No, not
No?
really. Every once in a while.
Email it to us. Email is better than Twitter. Twitter is a type and a shadow of email. So if you're out there in podcasting, snack on some fruit every once in a while. Befuddle taxonomists as much as possible, and mark your territory with that sweet ganja like the maned wolf here in life, death, and taxonomy.
Hey Taxonomy Titans, I just want to remind you that we now have a Patreon. Patrons can see full video episodes and get shoutouts on the show. But ultimately, it's a way for you to help us cover some costs and get even better. Still, reviews are the best way to help us grow. So if you haven't left one yet, we'd really love to hear from you. As always, thanks for listening and engaging.
Life, Death, and Taxonomy is my favorite in the world podcast.
It doesn't actually mark his territory with weed, but
Oh, I think I found it.
oh, that is unpleasant.